Okay, so welcome back, and in this video what we're going to do is we're going to talk about powers of 10. And so let's start with what we talked about in previous videos a while back when we were talking about place value. And we can look at place value as a power of 10. Okay, so we've got the 10th place, right? Which can be looked at as 1 over 10. So we've got 10 in the denominator, or we can write it as with a negative exponent, which is 10 to the negative first power. Okay, or we've got the 100th place, which is 0.01, which could be written as 1 over 10 squared, or we can write it as 10 to the negative 2 with an exponent of negative 2. And then so on, right? So each time we go out to another place value, for example, the 1000th place, we increase by a power of 10 in the denominator. Okay? And then we could write those as negative powers of 10. So, in other words, we could take a number to a negative exponent, we could write the reciprocal, right? So this could be the reciprocal of a. Right, so this is a to the nth power. Okay, so we can write, for example, any reciprocal a to the negative 1 is actually the reciprocal of a. Okay, so that's where negative exponents come in too. We could write the notation differently. Okay, so you could think of as we go out to the right in place value. Okay, as we go to the right of the decimal point, we get higher and higher negative powers of 10, right? Remember, before we were talking about dividing by powers of 10 moves the decimal point to the left, right? So notice how you can look at this as the decimal point moves to the left for every power of 10 that you're dividing by, which we can write as a negative power, okay? Also, to the left of the decimal point are also the place values. So we have the ones place is 10 to the 0. So a to the 0 power is defined as 1. So any number raised to the 0 power is defined as 1. So that includes 10. So 10 to the 0 power is the ones column or the units column. Okay, and then if we go to 1 power of 10, we get 10. 10 to the second power is 100, so we get the hundreds place. We get the ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, and so on. Right? So to the left of the decimal point represents positive powers of 10, and to the left of the to the right of the decimal point represents negative powers of 10. So to the left is positive powers of 10. To the right is negative powers of 10. Okay? Now, that also brings us to the point where when we multiply by powers of 10. So if we multiply by powers of 10, if the 10 is a positive exponent, well, that's going to tell us to move the decimal point to the right. So if we just use an example, which we'll do others as well, is we know that, hey, if we take 1.2 and we multiply by 10, that equals 12, right? And if we take 12 times 10, that equals 120. And if we take 120 times 10, now that's 1200. And if we take 1200 times 10, now that's going to be 12,000. So notice what's happening here. So I'm going to put the decimal point in. So every time we multiply by 10, it's moving the decimal point to the right and adding a 0. Right? Now, if we divide by a power of 10, in effect, we're moving the decimal point to the left, one place value. So that brings us to the steps of how do we multiply by powers of 10. Well, one, if the exponent is positive, right? If the exponent is positive, shift the decimal point to the right. The number of place values, shift the decimal point to the right, the number of place values equal to the positive exponent. Okay? So if whatever the exponent is, whatever the positive exponent is, that's the number of place values we're going to move the decimal point to the right. And then we're going to attach zeros at the end as necessary. Okay? Just like we did over here when I was multiplying by 10. Okay? Now, 2, if the exponent is negative, then we're going to shift the decimal point to the left. Okay? So if the exponent is negative, we're going to shift to the left the number of place values equal to the negative exponent. And then we're going to insert zeros as necessary. And so that's how we multiply by powers of 10. If we understand that it's just because we have a base 10 system for our numeral system, then we understand that, hey, powers of 10 move things from one place value to another, which effectively moves the decimal point. Okay? Next we'll do some examples.